Hey everybody, this is Jeff, your GM, and we're handling a little side thing right now. I'm here joined by Jesse,
Hey, what's up, everybody?
and we're going to be talking about the characters, the crunch, the mechanics, all the silly number stuff that goes on behind the scenes that my tiny, adorable little brother, who's actually 4 raccoons in a trench coat, pretending to be a human that works at a restaurant, would like to know.
Yeah, shout out to Evan, inventor of the pizza scrambled egg meatloaf casserole.
The culinary abomination against God. But this is an episode filled with crunch and numbers. If you're not interested in that, not a problem. Don't bother listening to it. But if you'd like to know stats and all the other stuff that goes on behind the scenes, enjoy.
Yeah.
So, Jesse, Oswald's level 6. What does he look like nowadays?
He is level 6. Well, Oswald is, he's still the same height, thankfully. That hasn't changed. So he's, like 4'6". He's on the short side of medium, 80, 90 pounds. He still wears his hair kind of well, not hair, his head tentacles kind of messed up. I think he probably slicked them back, thinking that looked fancy during the episode at the party. Still wearing that delivery jacket, but these days that's on the outside of a Sanda survival suit because he was finding he needed a little bit better protection. He's got the upgraded Hedron mining equipment now that he got from his parents. We're out of winter now, so he's not needing to wear that baggy sweatshirt anymore. We're into early spring. But yeah, light grayish purple skin. Often seen with a skateboard and headphones and a backpack, and just kind of overloaded with stuff more than he probably should have.
All right, fair. What are Oswald's stats? What are the numbers you're working with?
Ooh. So the stats today are going strength, dex, con, int, wiz, cha is 10, 22, 16, 14, 14, 12. So I'm at all even numbers. So if he continues to survive and get stat boops, we'll have to make some hard choices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no bonus mods for you for at least a little bit.
Yep, I finally bumped that cha up to a 12. I figured that Oswald's been bumbling around as a socially incompetent, naive young kid long enough. It's let's get him up to a +1.
All right, I can dig it. And of course, you're known for your mining gear, your equipment there. But what else do you got that stands out? What else? When you kind of mentioned the jacket, Santa's gear. Tell us a little bit about them.
So the delivery jacket is your fairly basic light armor. At this point, it's not really his primary means of protection because he's relying on the survival gear for that. So at this point, he's just wearing it because it's part of his style and it shows the newspaper that he used to deliver papers for way back in Pauldron. That Santa survival gear is meant to help protect the wearer in all kinds of different environments. Comes with some healing vials that can be loaded in, but I've got to pay to replace those, and currently they're all out. And I think it's got some helpful other little side tricks, like not having to be able to breathe when you're in, weird toxin vapors, things like that. Beyond that, he's got the Malmori gauntlets that Lucius gifted him, or I guess Lucius's grandfather maybe gifted him, which are Acanthian gauntlets. Any item that he holds while he's wearing the gauntlets is considered indestructible while he's wearing those, but he doesn't really bring those along very often. He kind of looks to Lucius as far as when it makes sense to bring those, because he loses a lot of fine motor control dexterity when he's wearing them. As far as weapons go, his primary weapon these days is the Suleni dancing blade, which kind of gives a little bit of a bonus when you move in addition to your attack, which Oswald's a big fan of moving around a whole lot during combat. He's got a seeker pistol as a ranged weapon, but it's pretty rare that he pulls it out to use it.
Next, I guess, what's your main class, as well as what is your side class?
Yeah, so I'm 6 levels in Inquisitor at this point, which I like because it's got kind of a little bit of everything feel to it. You get a little bit of, roguey, tricksy stuff out of it. So you get some good skill points out of it. 3/4 base attack, you get a little bit of divine casting, a little bit of everything. My side class, I've got two gestalted levels, or pseudo-gestalted levels of Magus, specifically the Kensei archetype, which helps me get focus in that Suleni dancing blade. And a little bit of arcane trickiness as well, especially Mage Hand. That's a nice little addition to the spellcasting.
Okay. And what are your choice feats? What are...
I've been putting, I put a little bit of, I chose Divine Fighting Technique as my very first feat, specifically going after Saren Ray's Mercy, which would kind of be flavored a little bit for Tali and using the Dancing Blade instead of the Scimitar. And that helps me deal non-lethal damage and eventually get some cool stuff, if he ever survives to level 10, which I kind of doubt at this point, but if it happens, then neat. After that, I've been putting a lot of focus into things that help with sleight of hand and stealing. So I've got like deft hands and walking sleight. And lately we've been getting some teamwork feats into the mix. So we've got escape route, which helps people avoid attacks of opportunity as long as they're adjacent to friends, and hopefully we'll do a little bit better job of staying near to each other so that we can take advantage of that. And swing about. So with that one, I can grab an adjacent ally and move them to an adjacent space without provoking, which in retrospect probably would have helped when we were trying to get away from a legally distinct illithid in a cavern who was trying to eat my brain.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
But I was kind of panicky.
Fair.
There's a lot going on down there. I did just pick. I realized as preparation for this episode that I kind of did a whole character sheet audit to make sure everything was squared away on all the numbers, added up properly. And for anybody who's not played in one of Jeff's campaigns, you don't know how much there is to keep track of. There's so much good stuff that Jeff throws in on top of base Pathfinder. It's a mess of a character sheet, but it's really fun to play. As part of that, I realized I was down 1 feat, so I picked up Magic Trick Mage Hand, which will allow me to use that Mage Hand to do Sleight of Hand and Disable Device at a distance, which will allow for all kinds of fun shenanigans, I hope. Pickpocketing and opening locks and, like more reliably dropping grenades in people's pockets, things like that.
All right. And speaking of all the extra nonsense I added to this game, something that is very unique for our world and stuff, talk to the listeners a bit about the background you've chosen.
Yeah, so the background is Hedron Daredevil. The way, I don't know if you explained it in Sean's episode, but the way backgrounds work, they're kind of like an extra subclass you get to staple on top of your regular classes. So they work kind of like a cross between a prestige class and a gestalt thing, but there's no like base attack bumps. It's all just abilities. So the one I've got is Hedron Daredevil, which really leans into the Hedron harvesting equipment, the mining gear that I wear. Gives me kind of extra abilities with that, and makes me kind of more mobile, and gives me benefits when I'm using them to their full extent. At level 6, we're at tier 2 in that background. It's kind of the second out of 4 stages. That gives me a bonus to my AC whenever I'm like not on solid ground. So if I'm like hanging to a sidewall or something, I get a little bit of a dodge boop. And I don't lose my dex or dodge when I'm running, climbing, squeezing into tight spaces, when I'm flying around basically. And I also get now the ability to generate momentum by intentionally provoking attacks of opportunity or using double move. I can use momentum to increase a 5-foot step into a 10-foot step, or I can get lightning stance into the end of my next turn.
And lightning stance gives you a 50% dodge. You used it during the brewery episode.
I sure tried to, yes. A 50% dodge did not keep me from being pinned to the wall.
That is true. When you're rolling them good skills, what are your choice skills? What are the main things people should be listing? Yeah, what are my
strong skills?
Yeah, what should people be listing for when Oswald decides to go do a thing?
Yeah, my strongest skills are acrobatics, disable device, fly, heal, perception, sleight of hand, and stealth. And then I'm decent at like craft mechanical, survival, UMD, and knowledge religion. UMD is use magic device. Some of those are just kind of like things I've picked up along the way. Others are kind of things I think of as kind of core to how Oswald sees the world. Acrobatics and disable device and sleight of hand are all like right in that butter zone for Oswald of flying around and being able to do overcome technological obstacles when possible.
Okay.
We want to talk a little more about how the mining gear actually works.
Yes, go ahead. And...
Sure. It's definitely complicated, and it's gone through some like it's kind of up in the air in terms of mechanically what its real limits are, because we've kind of fooled around a little bit with how the charges work on this thing. Mm-hmm. But basically the way that it works is you get a set number of charges. It's a pretty high number. It's like 50 charges in this thing that you can use as a variety of different actions to move around at different speeds. So for instance, I can do like I can spend one charge as a move action to fire a hook at any surface within 80 feet, and then I move that distance as long as I end up on a surface that can support me, including a wall. I can basically like cling to it. So that'd be a move action, right? I can also do it as a swift action, but what happens then is I don't move immediately. Instead, I move next turn that distance. I'm kind of setting up for a future round. If I spend more charges, so like 2 or 5, I can then move as an immediate or a free action. But then I'm burning through the capabilities of the equipment faster than I can kind of replenish it. We don't really take care of like tracking charges too closely during the sessions, and because of that, I try not to abuse how much the mining equipment could be used. Because realistically, like if we just had unlimited charges, I could just be throwing free movement around nilly-willy, and that kind of breaks things a little bit. So the way I've been imagining it is that during downtime in between missions, Oswald goes back to Boulder Requisitions and spends time kind of like replenishing the hooks into it and like goosing the charges back up so you can get back to a full tank for the next scenario.
For listeners, for my GM style, a lot of times I'm very happy to do things like that because I trust my players, number one, not to abuse them, but also a lot of bookkeeping, unless it creates tension or adds some fun to it, is kind of pointless. And I feel like it slows the game down for no reason.
Totally agree. Yeah, it's mainly there so that I remember, like, hey, this is supposed to cost more, so don't do it as often. And because there is like a cost at all, that means that if I ever got hit by, say, an EMP or something, all of a sudden my mining equipment might turn off, and that would be pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
That is when I'm going to wish that I actually had taken Featherfall, which, by the way, I have not.
I do believe it is built into the...
Oh, does the Sandus survival gear have... That makes sense. It's one of the little...
Not on the Sandus, on the new Hedron gear.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Featherfall... Oh, well, okay, so yes. It does have Featherfall for 1 round per charge. So if my charges get drained, that's still not available to me.
Correct. That is true.
But yeah, that'll be useful if I am ever, like, thrown out of an airship or something.
And that might never happen.
I mean, I did fantasize briefly about becoming an airship pirate. That seemed pretty cool.
Yeah. Who hasn't?
Right?
Though they have been subtle so far, these small modifications or small alterations regarding your first episode, I believe, bite from a corrupted Ember Wolf.
Yeah. Oswald's, like, there's been, like, steps in that direction at several points over the course of 3 chapters now. And Oswald is definitely, he's been trying to just kind of deal with it, just kind of like fight it off a little bit. But especially with this last episode down in the wine cellar, he's probably gone over a threshold at this point. He's been having nightmares. He's been hearing things and seeing things that aren't there. He's been hearing whispers in his head from who knows where. I know where, but Oswald certainly doesn't. And I think from here on, we're going to see an Oswald that's a little more jittery, a little more prone to nervousness and being spooked easily, and maybe even leaning into this little bit of madness he's starting to take on. He might start listening to what those voices and half-heard whispers have to say, rather than trying to drown them out. So we'll see where that goes.
We did this pretty efficiently. Is there... Trying to think, is there something future-wise that you're excited for, Oswald? Is there plans that you have that,
Oh gosh, I mean, I think whatever plans I might have had are starting to be side-railed by, everything that's actually happening in the madness and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It also feels like we're maybe jumping into a phase of the story where we're getting less and less breathing time in between work that we're doing. Which is eventually going to catch up with Oswald. I haven't made a big point of it yet, but he didn't sleep last night in the hotel, and I'm not sure when the next time he's going to sleep is. He's keen to avoid those nightmares right now. So as far as plans go, I'm not sure. Like, I might start multiclassing out of Inquisitor into something else that kind of feels a little more thematically appropriate. Heck, I might even hunt around for like a prestige class that has the right kind of flavor I'm going for. There's a few hundred prestige classes in Pathfinder, most of which are garbage, but some of them have some pretty good flavor, so might be worth looking around in there.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. I guess what I'm excited for in the future is kind of like diverting from what I thought was a fairly straightforward arc of progression, and seeing what the changes that have happened in Oswald's life mean for how he changes mechanically.
That's very fair. Let's see, is there anything else? Is there anything you want to touch on specifically about your character for people to know? Mechanics or otherwise.
Yeah. For anybody who knows how all these moving parts actually work, anytime you're listening like, why didn't he do that? Well, it's because I've got like 15 of these things trying to keep track of, and sometimes I lose track of which one is the right one to use in any situation. Like, I know I have spells I could use more often than I do, and it's not, right now it's not my go-to, like, top of my list option. Same thing with some of the Inquisitor abilities, like Stern Gaze, or not Stern Gaze, Steady Target. I forget to do Steady Target a lot. I don't think I've used Bane at all yet, but I was gonna, if I wasn't pinned to a wall by a Illithid, I was definitely gonna put Bane on my sword. Also, a lot of it is like Oswald, when you get down to like his gooey core, he doesn't actually want to fight anybody. He wants to not hurt people. He's trying to just make his way and do a good job, and he knows sometimes people get hurt and he's got to fight to make things happen sometimes, but he'll look for a way to avoid hurting people whenever he can. So yeah, and we'll see if that changes.
No, definitely. Well, I have plenty of fun stuff in the pipeline lined up for our good boy Oswald. And still a bunch left of Chapter 3. That'll probably be one of our longest chapters. So
yeah, sounds about right.
Well, groovy with that. Thank you, listeners. Evan, there you go. That's the fun stuff on Oswald. All that's left now is Lucius and his mysteries. Mystery
of how he gets the ketchup out of his mustache.
Secret, he doesn't. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
The music was brought to us by Sergepavkin Music, and the title of the track is Elegant Technologies.